Possibly just smelling the fact that I wash my hair. No, it's not me. Oh. So let's just sit with eyes closed. Just taking a moment to drop onto your mat. Mind and body. Letting go of your day, your week, plans, stuff. Being aware of any tension you might be holding, whether it's physically, energetically, emotionally. Being aware of any thoughts you might be holding on to. Anything stuck on repeat in your mind, see if you can let it go. Bring your focus into this moment, this body. We're going to be working into the hips today, really looking at mostly external rotation, some internal rotation, but mostly looking at external rotation in postures. Is everyone clear what external rotation is, first of all? Because we say it a lot, I say it a lot, but maybe not, no? Yes. Well, you'll know by the end of the class. This is the fact. The thing is, it's something that comes into so many of our postures. And actually really, it's an important one, really, I feel, to break down, which is why we're breaking it down. But let's sit to start with and just have a look for a second, because we're all built so differently. So when you sit with your legs out in front, let them go relaxed and just let them flop. And just have a look at what happens to your knees and your feet. What direction things go in. And often I don't know if you can see mine, you've all got sort of similar, but I have quite an exaggerated difference between the natural rotation, and I'm not an external rotator, I'm an internal rotator. Naturally, I can sit very comfortably internally rotated. External rotation for me is a force. So in order to get that real rotation, that's coming, it ends up twisting into my knees, which is often what happens to a lot of us. And you can see, this natural range. And if you bring the soles of the feet together, and without trying, just let the knees fall. So you're asking your hips to externally rotate in this position. And you can see the difference. Esther's just flopped down. Yours, mine don't flop like that naturally. I can move them down, but they don't flop like that naturally. And we all vary so much. Can you see, Lynn? We all vary so much on what this range of movement is. And so many postures, like, you know, we're going to be going into warriors and triangle pose and goddess pose, and all of these things are asking you to align your knee and your toe and externally rotate the hip, tree pose, and externally rotate at the hip without really kind of getting what we're trying to do or understanding how to do it. So we're going to work into that today. We're going to have fun doing little things, but it's interesting to see where you're at and to see the difference. You know, do you have one foot that is one leg that flops out and one that doesn't? Because I know I've always been like this. Left side externally rotates much easier than the right. Totally odd. And we're often quite wonky. You know, it's something, one of those weird little things to be aware of. So as we move through the practice and come into the different postures, we're going to play around with working out how to externally rotate. One of the ways, when we sit in Baddha Konasana, you can feel, if as you're sitting, if you clench the glute, if you sort of pull the glutes in, you can pull the legs down. Can you feel that kind of work? So the glutes play a big role in this, but the feet also play a huge role in it when we start working into things like tree pose, triangle pose, warriors, and various other things. So just having this awareness as we start to move through. So let's come forwards onto all fours and move straight into your cat-cow. Just starting to warm up through the spine. If it gets too warm in here, let me know. So just feeling the length of the spine as you move. So Lynn, walk your hands forward a little bit. Give yourself a bit more room. Even further. Just a tiny bit. Yeah. Good. And circling the hips. Good. And change the direction of these circles. And coming back to the center. So from here, we're going to lift the right knee out to the side and just start to circle that knee. Nice big circles. Just feeling into the hips and change the direction of the circles. And then lowering the right knee down, taking the left knee out to the side and circle. And change the direction of the circles. And then lowering the leg down to the mat. So walking your hands forward a hand's length, tuck your toes under and stretch back to your downward dog. Okay, so taking a few breaths, moving in the posture, just finding comfort. Finding those areas that feel a bit stuck. Getting rid of any tension from the neck, from the jaw. Good. And then walk your feet to the top of the mat, coming into Uttanasana. And so connecting into your midline, walk your hands around to the right side of the mat. Push the left sitting bone back. Just breathing into that stretch.
And then walk the hands around to the left side, pushing the right sitting bone back. And coming back to the center, bring your hands onto the backs of your hips. And on your inhale, come up to standing. And bring your arms down by your side into Tadasana. But inhaling, floating your arms up, gaze to the thumbs. Exhale, swan dive forwards to Uttanasana. So work the hands back alongside the feet. Inhaling, look forwards to your flat back and lengthen. Exhaling, step back, chaturanga or knees, chest and chin. Inhaling to upward dog or cobra. Exhaling back to your downward dog and hold it here. So as you're in your downward dog, stretch the feet. Spread the toes. Really activate your feet. It's quite nice in downward dogs. You can see what you're doing. You can see if they're parallel. Inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Inhaling, rise up to standing, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhaling, hands to the heart center. Good. Inhale, floating your arms up. Exhale, swan dive forwards to Uttanasana, hands back alongside the feet. Inhaling, flat back. Exhaling, step back, chaturanga. Inhale to cobra or upward dog. Exhale back to your downward dog and hold it here. Your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Inhaling, rise up to stand, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, hands to the heart center. Good. Inhaling, floating your arms up. Exhaling, swan dive forwards to Uttanasana, so lengthen as you fold. Inhale to your flat back. Exhaling, step back, chaturanga. Inhaling to your upward dog. Exhaling back to your downward dog. Good. On your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Inhaling, rise up to standing, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhaling, hands to the heart center. Good. Inhaling, floating your arms up. Exhale, swan dive forwards to Uttanasana. Inhaling to your flat back. Exhaling, step back, chaturanga. Inhale to your upward dog. Exhale back to downward dog and hold it here. So on the inhale, float the right leg up towards the ceiling, three-legged dog. So bending your knee. We're then going to open the hips out to the right side. So lifting that right knee as high as you can and pushing down through the left heel. Keep the shoulders squared off. So we're trying not to drop into that left armpit. Good. And then lowering the right foot back to the mat. On your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Inhaling, rise up to standing, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhaling, hands to the heart center. Inhaling, floating your arms up. Exhale, swan dive forwards to Uttanasana. Inhaling to your flat back. Exhaling, step back, chaturanga. Inhale to upward dog.
Exhale back to your downward dog. And now floating the left leg up. So bending the left knee and open the hips out to the left side. So we're lifting that left knee as high as we can and pushing down through the right heel. Good. And then lowering the left foot to the mat. On your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Inhaling, rise up to standing Urdhva Hastasana. Exhaling, hands to the heart center. Good. Inhaling, sit back to Utkatasana. Exhale and swan dive forwards to Uttanasana. Inhaling, flat back. Exhaling, step back, Chaturanga. Inhale to upward dog. Exhale back to your downward dog. Inhaling, step the right foot forwards, left heel comes to the mat, Virabhadrasana 1, and hold it here. So here, one example of a slight external rotation, back leg. So the front leg, the knee is ideally in our ideal alignment. You can stay in Warrior One as we do this. We've got the hips squared off to the front of the mat. So this leg is turned out a little bit to get that 45-degree angle. In a high lunge, this is why the two postures are quite different. In a high lunge, the leg's in the midline. So the two are very different postures because one of them you're keeping the hips square and both of the legs are moving in that straightforward direction. When you come into Virabhadrasana 1, you're asking the hips to stay square and the leg to externally rotate, which is quite hard, which is often why people feel it in the back knee. So if you do, you turn the back toe in a little bit just to reduce that amount of rotation. So taking a nice deep breath in. Exhaling, lower the hands down, step back, Chaturanga or knees, chest and chin. Inhaling to upward dog or cobra. Exhale back to your downward dog. Inhaling the left foot forward, so the right heel comes to the mat, Virabhadrasana 1. Does anyone ever feel this in the back knee? No? Good. That's a good thing. Because the knee is the first thing when we come into standing postures with any external rotation, the knee's the bit in the middle, and it's often the bit that can get too much force put onto it. So really we're bending the front knee, working on squaring the hips off to the front of the mat, and then that external rotation coming into the back leg. So we have to anchor through the back foot. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhaling, lower the hands to the mat, step back, Chaturanga or knees, chest and chin. Inhaling to upward dog. Exhaling back to your downward dog. On your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Bend your knees, inhale, sweep your arms up to Utkatasana. Exhaling, come to stand, bring the hands to the heart center. Inhaling, sit back to Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold to Uttanasana. Inhaling to your flat back. Exhaling, step back, Chaturanga or knees, chest and chin. Inhaling to upward dog. Exhaling back to your downward dog. Now on your inhale, step the right foot forwards, keeping a high lunge this time. So we keep the hips and the legs squared to the front or in that midline. Connecting to that back foot, spread the toes. And then see if you can bend the front knee and come down a little bit lower. Good, keep powering up the back leg, taking a nice deep breath in. Exhaling, lower the hands down, step back, Chaturanga. Inhaling, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale to Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Inhale the left foot forwards, high lunge. Just again, power up that back foot. I'm seeing some half straight back legs. Yes, Lynn. So spreading the toes, bend the front knee, come down just a little bit lower. Take a nice deep breath in, relax the arms down. Exhaling, lower the hands down, step back, Chaturanga. Inhaling to Cobra or Upward Dog. Exhaling back to Downward Dog and hold it here. Good. On your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Bend your knees, inhale, sweep your arms up to Utkatasana. Exhale, come to stand, bring the hands to the heart center. So before we come into our more external rotating postures, we're going to do a bit of ballet, as you do. So bringing the feet together, turn the toes out so that you've got about a 90-degree angle between the feet. Who did ballet? Whose knees were okay afterwards? Mine was stuffed. So here, what we're looking at really, as you bend, we're not really doing ballet, but we're just doing a little check. Do a little bend and just have a look naturally without really overly activating anything. Just have a look at whether the knees and toes go in the same direction. Yeah, we all good? Okay, now turn them out further. Now see if the knees and toes go out in the same direction. See what happens. Maybe? They feel like they're rolling in a bit, yeah. And then see if you can turn them out all the way around. Yeah, sorry, standing up might be a bit hard. And bend. See, Esther, yours do it quite naturally. Yeah. I mean, balance is amusing, but do you see it? It doesn't matter. We're not trying to be ballet dancers. God, I used to do this for hours. But can you feel the difference when you're turning the legs out, when you're asking both of them to do it at once? What you don't have, when you come into a warrior and you ask one of them to turn out to 90 degrees, what you have then is the ability for the hips to swing out. This is why, you know, it's often that we're like, okay, square the hips off to the long edge of the mat, because the hips will naturally kick in and go, no, the leg doesn't go that far, because not many people, or it's a minority of people, will naturally turn out to a 90 degree and have their knees going in the same direction without a lot of practice. But then some people are born like that. Yeah, I've got a friend who lies in frog pose and he's perfectly comfortable like that. That's his like chilling out position. Whereas if I'm there for more than 5 minutes, I'm like, what? Our bodies are different. When we're born, it's to do with how the body is formed. It wraps around when we're in the womb. When it's actually being born, it wraps around, and it's to do with the amount of wrap. How we work around like this as to how much we rotate either inwards or outwards. It's really weird. My osteopath we did a whole workshop on it years ago, and I was like, I didn't know that. But some people naturally rotate in, others out. So when it comes to our yoga, and we're going, okay, warrior 2, turn out to 90 degrees, Trikonasana, turn out to 90 degrees, all of the postures we're going to be doing. For some people, it's torture. It's like, no. And this is where knees can end up taking a battering. Because if you're asking the hip to turn to 90 degrees and it doesn't know how, and it doesn't know what it's doing, then, and the hips aren't able to what's the word? Compensate, then your knee ends up twisting. You end up with the knee twisting, which is why sometimes these postures can cause slight problems with the knees. There are little tricks that we can do that help with the external rotation. One of them being glutes help. So we wrap that under. We have those adductor muscles that we can wrap under. The other one being through the feet, which we'll do when we get into Warrior Two, which turns on, literally just turns on that external rotation. But it's an important one to be mindful of, really, with your practice, because when it comes to things like Ardha Chandrasana, which we'll do, balancing postures that are asking you to externally rotate, if you've then got a toss up, because if you're losing their back leg and you're like, well, do I stack the hip on top of the other hip, or do I have the foot to 90 degrees? Because, you know, both can't happen. What we're trying to do, you're trying to find your compensation, but not turning off the external rotation. So you're trying to deepen it. You're trying to still work into opening the hip without, but not then expecting the body to do something it's just not built to do, and that you're going to injure yourself doing. Yeah, because sometimes, like, I have to turn that foot in slightly, then I'm fine. Everything's fine. I can work it. If I do a long class, I can work it open, but it takes work. So we'll flow and we'll keep an eye on it. So coming back to the top of your mat, we shall work into it. But that's your external rotation. Basically, you've got your midline. Internal rotation is going into the midline. External rotation is going away from it. Quite simply, same with the arms. Internal, external. So staying in the midline, inhaling, sit back to Utkatasana. Exhale and forward fold to Uttanasana. Inhaling to your flat back. Exhaling, step back, Chaturanga, or knees, chest and chin. Inhale to upward dog. Exhale back to your downward dog. On your inhale, step your right foot forwards, come into your high lunge. Exhaling, turn to the left, Virabhadrasana 2. So bring your hands onto your hips and have a look down. Play around with this one. So you want to have the alignment, the middle arch, front heel in line with the middle arch of the back foot in a straight line. Now, in the yoga world, the hips are then square to the long edge of the mat. So get the hips square to the long edge of the mat and see what happens to the front leg. Yeah, right? But go with it, it's fine. Get the hips squared off. So that left hip wants to pull back a little bit so that the hips are next to each other. You might actually have to fit, so it could be a more pull back. You're facing this way. Yeah. You were on a whole other posture. Yeah. So now notice, and if that knee, with that bend in the front knee, if the knee has collapsed in. So then what you want to do is activate this front foot. So flex the toes back, push down really actively into the ball of the little toe until you feel that kind of adductor muscle turn on. Got it? So it really is, this is how, it's a really simple little on switch to help with that external rotation. So as you're trying to draw that left hip back, you're trying to turn out from the hip. So wrapping that right sitting bone under and pushing into the ball of the little toe to encourage that opening, yeah? So taking the arms out to shoulder height. Keep that action working with the legs. Bend the front knee. See if you can come down just a little bit lower. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhaling, lower the hands to the mat. Step back, Chaturanga, or knees, chest and chin. Inhaling to upward dog or cobra. Exhale back to your downward dog. Inhaling the left foot forwards, so coming into your high lunge. Exhaling, turn to the right, Virabhadrasana 2. So again, get the alignment. Front heel in line with the middle arch of the back foot. Hands to the hips, and now square the hips off again. And you might notice, like me, if you've got one side that's much more open than the other one. So drawing that right hip back, you push the right thigh back, you take the right hip back, and have a look at your knee. What's happened to that front knee? So then turning the foot on, lift the toes. So you can lift the toes on both feet. Push into the four corners of the back foot. You push into the four corners of the front foot, but you really press down into the ball of the little toe just to get that extra bit of turn on. So that it's active through the legs. So you can see how important the feet are. If you let go of either of those feet, the posture collapses. If the feet just collapse. So taking the arms out to shoulder height. Soften the front knee, bend and come down a little bit lower. So Jenny, turn that foot in. Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, yeah. Good. Taking a nice deep breath in. Exhaling, lower the hands to the mat. Step back, chaturanga or knees, chest and chin. Inhaling to upward dog or cobra. Exhale back to your downward dog and hold it there. Yes, just turn it off at the plug. Yeah, we were doing restorative before, so it was a bit chilly, but. Good. On your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Bend your knees, inhale, sweep your arms up to Utkatasana. Exhaling, come to stand, bring the hands to the heart center. Inhaling, sit back to Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold to Uttanasana. Inhaling to your flat back. Exhaling, step back, chaturanga. Inhale to upward dog. Exhale, back to downward dog. Inhaling, step the right foot forwards, high lunge. On the exhale, turn to the left, Virabhadrasana 2. So now straighten the front leg. So Trikonasana, exactly the same thing. It's asking for the hip to externally rotate, the right hip, with the same alignment. So front heel in line with middle arch of back foot. And the hips are next to each other. The bony hip bones are next to each other. So put the hands on the hips if you need to, and just make sure that that left hip is back. Have a look at your right knee, what direction the right knee is pointing in. Now flex the toes on the right foot and push into the ball of the little toe. And see if you can feel that external rotation of that right thigh. Got it? The knee just suddenly goes, it just turns. So you want to keep the feet active. Again, both postures, we're keeping the feet active. Take the arms out to the side, shoulder height. Now, as you reach towards the front of the room, I want you to lengthen. So here, you need to really externally rotate that right thigh, wrap the right sitting bone under, and pull the right thigh bone back towards the back of the room, all while keeping that left hip back. Keep it going. I know, I'm with you. Good, keep. So we're really trying to pull. So Lynn, drop that right thigh more and reach more. More. Good. And then bring the right arm onto the inside of the right leg. Take the gaze up towards that left hand, up towards the ceiling. So work on wrapping this under. Yeah, you can feel it, right? Yeah, I've got the same pull. If in any of these postures you feel tweaking behind the knees, then have a micro bend in the knee just to save it.
Good. Inhaling, bend the knee, come up to warrior two. Exhaling, lower the hands down, step back, chaturanga, or knees, chest and chin. Inhale to cobra or upward dog. Exhale back to your downward dog. Inhaling the left foot forwards, high lunge. Exhaling, turn to the right, Virabhadrasana 2. So again, front heel in line with the middle arch of back foot. Now we're trying to take that right hip back and straighten the front leg, which if you're anything like me, my knee now points in that direction. My toe is going in that direction, my knee is going in that direction. So have a look at what the knee's doing. Have a look at where it's going. And then activate the feet. So lift the toes back, push down, and then turn on that external rotation in the left hip. To push down into the ball of the little toe. Get the legs active. And then floating the arms up to shoulder height. So you're holding that. As you inhale, reach towards the front of the room. So now, without allowing that front thigh to internally rotate, because it's going to try to, keep wrapping the left sitting bone under and reach to get as much space from the left hip crease to the left armpit. Then you open out, taking the arms down. So it all builds from the feet up. And then breathe space into it. Wherever you're feeling it, breathe into it. Bend the front knee, inhale, come back up to your warrior two. Exhaling, lower the hands down, step back, chaturanga or knees, chest and chin. Inhaling to upward dog or cobra. Exhaling back to your downward dog. On your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Bend your knees, inhale, sweep the arms up to Utkatasana. Exhaling, come to stand, bring the hands to the heart center. Good, inhale, sit back to Utkatasana. So knees and toes in the same direction. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling, flat back. Exhaling, step back, chaturanga. Inhale to upward dog. Exhale back to your downward dog. Inhaling, step the right foot forwards, come into your high lunge. Exhaling, turn to the right, Virabhadrasana 2. I'm going to make Lynn see people. So now, get your external rotators turned on. Activate the back foot. So now we're going to transfer the weight onto the right foot and lift the back leg. We're not going to come into the full posture at the moment. We're going to come halfway into it. Yeah. So now you've got to try and externally rotate that front leg. So pushing down into the ball of the little toe and lift the back leg. Keep that back foot active, and then slowly you're going to lower the right hand down towards the mat. See if you can get to the floor. Use the brick if you need to. So this is the bit where my teacher used to come and go, now put your left hip back on top of your right hip, and you'd be like, what? So you're trying to stack that left hip on top of the right hip. There is a lot going on. Good. On your inhale, slowly step back to your warrior two. Exhaling, lower the hands to the mat, step back, chaturanga or knees, chest and chin. We're going to go over it again shortly. Inhaling to upward dog or cobra. Exhaling back to your downward dog. Inhale the left foot forwards, come into your high lunge. Exhaling, turn to the right, coming into your warrior two. So get the feet active. Even when you lift that back leg, if it goes floppy and you lose the back foot,
everything collapses, same way as it will do when you're in the warrior. So transferring the weight onto the front foot, just play around with this and notice as you're transitioning, can you keep the hips next to each other? Play around and then slowly lifting the back leg. Can you make your way down into Ardha Chandrasana? If you've got your hand to the floor, take that right hip back, not the leg, the hip. So you have to really externally rotate the front leg to help with that rotation. Good. Inhaling, step back into your warrior two. Exhaling, lower the hands down, step back, chaturanga on knees, chest and chin. Inhaling to upward dog or cobra. Exhale back to your downward dog and hold it here. On your inhale, step forwards, come into your flat back. Exhaling, fold down to Uttanasana. Bend your knees, inhale, sweep your arms up to Utkatasana. Exhaling, come to stand, bring the hands to the heart center. How did it feel doing Ardha Chandrasana? Wow, everybody looks thrilled, by the way, Lynn. Happy. Did you have to adjust the foot? Did you find? No. Yeah, you're the same side as me. I have to. And the thing is, you've got in a flow class in particular, if you're going into a hatha class and Iyengar, you know, the Iyengar yoga side, where you're holding a posture for a lot longer, you can really work into it. You're there for sort of 15 breaths, something. You can really work into getting the alignment. And that's why it's a great thing to do. You know, an Iyengar class alongside a flow class is a brilliant practice because it's the two opposites. But when we do come into the flow, you've got to be, what you really need to be mindful of is not to put the knee in jeopardy. Because if I come into it on the right side, left side, I'm okay. But if I come into this and I'm like, okay, push that back, the only place I'm feeling that is my knee. That's my knee that's stuck, you know, and it's not a particularly safe thing to do. So it's your choice, but just turning the foot in a little bit, but still working into that external rotation. So you're not turning it off completely, because ideally you're going to train it to externally rotate to 90 degrees. But we're not going to obsess over that, holding it for 5 breaths in a class. So it's finding your correct rotation and then working deeper from where you are, which if that is here, that's fine. Personally, when I practice Ardha Chandrasana, I would rather have the whole rest of my body in alignment and then be working on that bit than be here and then I'm trying to look up towards the ceiling and then I'm throwing my shoulder back and then my back's out of alignment. So just that tiny little bit and doing it with awareness, and the one side might be totally different to the other because I'm the same. Left foot, fine, can work into it and it turns out 90 degrees, but it's being aware of your body. And as we come now into tree pose, this is another one where teachers go, right, and take the knee out to 90 degrees, and it just all goes to pot. So we're going to do it and see where our bodies take us. So coming into Tadasana, hands to the hips. We're going to start by transferring the weight onto the left foot and lifting the right leg out in front. So we're going to do it slowly. Flex the foot. So both feet are active from now. So then we take the knee out to the side. and stop. As soon as you honestly notice that happening with the hips, just stop. Don't go any further than that. So Rachel, bring it back. Yes. And then bring the foot onto the inside of the thigh. Because now you have the little trick with the foot. You've got contact between that right foot and the left thigh. So the same action that you did with the front leg in Warrior Two, in Triangle and in Ardha Chandrasana, you can do in Tree. So you activate, you push into that standing leg and push into the ball of the little toe, and it will externally rotate that leg. You got it? Can you feel it? It just went, it just turns it on, and then you're keeping the hips forward. So the rest of your body's in Tadasana. It's just that one leg is just doing its own thing. And it feels you've got that rooting and that stability with the bond of the foot and the leg. Then if it feels okay, take the arms up. See if you can lift out of your standing leg as you're doing this. So lifting up. Good. Now bringing the hands in front of the heart center, turn the knee to face forwards. And then release back down into Tadasana. How did that feel? Yeah? Got it, Lynn? You get a thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Oh, I know. So let's try on the other side. And interesting, see how it goes on the different sides. So hands to the hips so you can feel that they're square. And then lift the left leg. So activate the feet. Then take the leg to the side. So mine only goes to that. That's about where it's going without any activation. So bringing the foot onto the inside of the thigh, you activate the pose. So you turn out, pressing the foot into the standing leg, pressing that ball of the little toe into the standing leg, and really activating the adductors on the outside. So feeling that external rotation. And then taking the arms up towards the ceiling. So then bring your hands in front of your heart center. Bring the knee to face forwards and slowly release down. Arms down by your side into Tadasana. So now stepping the feet wide. So step your right foot back and turn to face this side. I'm going to make Lynn see everybody, just so she can see what we're all doing. So from here, we're going to turn the toes out to about 45 degrees, roughly. Lift the toes back. Push down into the four corners of the feet. So as you activate the feet, you should feel already it starts to turn on those rotators in the glutes, in the hips. Yeah? Good. Bring the hands in front of the heart center. And now bend the knees. As you bend the knees, be mindful. What tends to happen is we start to stick our bottom out. The thighs internally rotate. So actually what we're trying to do is keep externally rotating both thighs at once, lengthening the tailbone down and sitting down into goddess pose. Fun. Make sure that knees and toes are going in the same direction. Take the arms out to shoulder height, palms facing forward. Good. So keep really working on that external rotation. You can do this with the toes lifted. Really activate the feet. Push down into the feet. Do a little rock from side to side if it feels nice. Just feel into it. So could be, you can take your hands, feet wider if you want. It might be a bit easier. Wider out, wide. Yeah. Right. Good. And then slowly straightening the legs. Come up to standing, step to the top of the mat. How did that feel? Are we all getting clear on external rotation? We said it enough times yet. Now we're going to do more external rotation. So we're going to take the feet slightly sort of to mat distance. So you've got basically your toes are going to be off the mat and your heels are going to be on the mat. Feet turned out to about 45 degrees. Good. Bring your hands in front of your heart center into prayer again. So again, turn on the external rotators. This is another one. As we come down into Malasana, you've got two options. One of them being collapse, and I've just dropped into it, which is okay, but there's not a lot going on. The other one, we're going to work deep into the hips. So you activate the feet, turn on that external rotation. We're staying upright, and then we're going to bend the knees and slowly come down. You're going to reach a point where your bum's going to want to stick out. It's going to want to stick out. You can use the elbows if you want onto the insides of the thighs. Yeah. Yeah, and do a little rock from side to side. Feel into the hips. Just falling over. Good. And then straighten the right arm down. Place it onto the inside of the right foot. So use that arm to brace that right leg, and then open the left arm up towards the ceiling. So here we're finding an external rotation with a bit of help from the arm. So it's not just the feet, but keep the feet active. Good. And then place the left hand onto the inside of the left foot and take the right arm up. If you've got tight hips, this is a killer. Good. And then lowering down. Just step back onto all fours. Give the hips a little bit of a wiggle. It's killer. Okay, so we're going to come into an internal rotation stretch. Maybe a stretch. We'll see how it goes. So Virasana, our hero pose, internally rotates the thighs. And this is basically how I spent my entire childhood, just sitting. This is how I would flop down. So the thighs internally rotate so we can sit down in between the heels. For me, comfortable. For some people, like opposite, total opposite, yeah. Whereas you just flop into the other one. We all have such different bodies. So use blocks. So you want to be on the tops of your feet. What we're trying to avoid is, again, that twist coming into the knees. How's that feeling? Comfy? Yeah. Funny, isn't it? We're just all weird little bodies. You got a block, are you okay? Yeah, good. So we're trying to keep the knees together. Who feels comfortable? Relatively comfortable? Vaguely? Okay, we're going to see if we can lie back. And knees okay, most importantly. Knees all right? Good. If knees start to tweak doing this, don't do it. This is a posture I don't really teach that much because so many people just find it agony on their knees. But so we're going to take the hands back, lift up the hips, lengthen the tailbone towards the knees, lower the hips back down, and then come down to your elbows. So we're keeping the knees together, and then we're lowering all the way down, if you can, keeping the knees to the mat. Yeah. Just stay on the elbows if needed. It's good to have some, yeah, the quads have to give way as well. It hurts your knee. Yeah. It's not, that's why it hurts a lot of people's knees. It's whereas, you know, some people just kind of flop back, and Rachel could probably have a nap right now. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, how we're all, so slowly bring yourself back up again. We're all so different. Our bodies are so different. And it really is just finding not what I'm saying, what your body, it's the balance between what I'm asking you to do and what your body's capable of doing at that given moment. And that might vary depending on what you've been doing a couple of days beforehand. You know, if you've been for a run, it's like I've been hiking and surfing and my hips are like. So, you know, if you do a couple of days of yoga, then they're much more open. But it's just being aware, and when you're coming into this rotation, aware of when I'm saying external rotation, what you're doing, most importantly. So from here, we're going to come into quite a deep external rotation. We're going to come into frog pose for a few minutes, which is fun. This is what my friend can just lie like this. He just splats. It's really weird. He doesn't do yoga. He hates yoga, but this is comfy for him. So here, we're trying to have the knees at 90 degrees, and then the hips are level with the knees. Can you see? So take your knees wide, Lynn. So you're keeping your hips in line with your knees, and your feet are going straight back, so the shins are parallel. And then bringing the arms forwards. We're trying to find some level of relaxation. So you've got postures like this that are asking for that rotation, but you've got gravity on your side. Or not, as the case may be. Yeah, it possibly is. So slowly walking your hands back in again. Just be mindful as you come in. Good. And now we're going to come onto our backs with a strap. So you don't need a loop in it. They might have loops in already if people haven't taken them out, but you don't need the loop. So you're going to come to lying on your back. And we're going to have the legs flat, or legs flat, straight. So here you've got behind you, you can really feel whether the hips are level or not, because you can feel whether the weight's into the right hip or the left hip. You can feel what's going on. So bring the legs together and then flex the feet back. So as if you were standing in Tadasana. So you want to keep the feet active. And then bend the right knee, bringing the leg up towards your chest. So here, if you can take the yogi grip on the toes, then do. If you can hold the right big toe with the right hand, then do. Otherwise, loop the strap. So put the arm onto the inside, yeah. Otherwise, you loop the strap. And then extend the right leg up towards the ceiling. So now, as we start to move into this, we're going to take the leg in a second out to the side. But the first thing that we need to do is anchor through the hips. So you need to anchor with the left foot. So you flex the toes back and actively push as if you were pushing away with that, the whole of the left foot, the four corners of the foot. Push the left thigh down. You can place your left hand onto your left hip. And just feel. And now I want you to externally rotate the right leg. So the foot turns out, but it turns out from the hip. The external rotation will help you to take that leg out to the side. And then we go and expect it to come flat to the floor because that's what it does in pictures. But listen to your body. So you want to keep the hips level. Keep externally rotating that right leg. Yes. And allowing it to open out to the right side. It's really hard. Yeah, so really work on that. Yeah. But if you work on that rotation, and connecting it all back into the midline, so think Mula Bandha as well. There's a balance between the letting it go and the holding it in. No, that's fine. And inhale, slowly coming up. Ask you to chant while you're doing it. In theory, you should be able to chant some OMs. You know, in theory, but how did that feel? So it's that external rotation that's going to help you get the leg opening out to the side. So really working on that. So now taking the right leg down the mat, bend the left knee. And either taking hold of the toes or using the strap, extend the leg up towards the ceiling. Right foot, Kulbir. More right foot. It's flexed. Active right foot. These legs that we leave behind, we're so busy focused on the left one, we forget about the right one. They're our anchor. They're our kind of base. So push away through it, anchor yourself down. Push the right thigh down to the mat. Now externally rotate the left leg and slowly take it out to the side. So to work deeper into this, you want to push out through the feet. So push out through the right foot, push up and out through the left heel. Find that external rotation. Use the little ball of the little toe. You know, the foot doesn't know that there's not something standing in front of it. Turn on that little on switch. And then slowly come back up to the center. So releasing the foot, bend both knees, bring the feet flat to the mat. So crossing the right ankle over the left knee. Make sure that the bony ankle bone is crossed over, and then flex the foot back. So that right foot is flexed to save the knee. You know, this is a classic variation of a pigeon. This is dead pigeon, but classic variation of a hip opener. So lifting up the back of the left leg, take hold of the back of the left thigh or the shins. So you flex the right foot to kind of activate the lower leg muscles and support the knee joint. And then you can use the elbow, the right elbow, to push the right thigh away as you pull the left knee in. So it's doing the same thing as pigeon pose on that right glute, but without the full body weight. So if you do have funny knees, or it's just not working some days, this is a really lovely variation to come into. Still get that external rotation of the hip, but without the force of gravity and the full body weight. And then slowly releasing the left foot down to the mat. Keep the legs as they are. Take the arms out to the side, shoulder height, and twist the legs over to the right side. So just coming into a nice spinal twist. Turn your gaze over towards your left hand. Then slowly coming back up to the center. So swapping over, left ankle crosses over the right thigh. Flex the foot. So that bony ankle bone is crossed over, so it's not resting into the thigh, and then pick up the right leg. So again, drawing the right knee back towards the chest, use the left elbow to push the left thigh away. So we keep the knee nice and safe. And slowly releasing the right foot down to the mat. Take the arms to the side. And twist over to the left side, turning your gaze to the right. And slowly coming back up to the center. Extending your legs down the mat and come into Shavasana. Feeling your fingers and toes a wiggle. And gently hug your knees in towards your chest. Do a little rock from side to side. And then roll over onto your right side and gently come up to sitting. Bring your hands in front of your heart center into prayer. So we'll close chanting 3 Oms together. Taking a nice breath in for Om. Gently bowing your head. Namaste.